For part 2 of the B2 First Writing exam, you might decide to write a review. Wow, I love reviews. But what do you need to do to write the best review possible? My name is Toby, this is Smash English, and here is everything you need to know about writing the perfect review for the B2 First Cambridge exam. Before we begin, as always, a review should be between 140 and 190 words. If you write less than 140 words, then you will not have included all of the information necessary to complete the tasks, and that's a terrible thing. If you write more than 190 words, then you are probably including irrelevant information, and you will lose marks for doing this. And that's also a terrible thing. But please remember, do not count your words. You do not have time to count your words in the exam. If you waste your time counting words, then you will not have enough time to do the review really well. And that's also a terrible thing. But don't worry, because I will give you the structure, and if you follow the structure, then your word count will be fine. Trust me, I'm a teacher. A teacher of my own language. Wow, that makes me a success. Right, Dad? Dad? Are you proud of me now, Daddy? Oh. Unlike an essay, a review should be written in an informal to neutral register. This means you can use phrasal verbs, you can use idioms, you can use contractions, you can be creative. But Toby, I don't know how to be creative. Being creative is easy. I will tell you exactly how to do it, so just do everything I tell you to. Every review should have 4 paragraphs, and paragraphs 1 and 4 are always the same. The introduction and the conclusion. In the introduction, you must introduce the thing you are reviewing, obviously. But it's more complicated than that, because also you must grab the reader's attention. Yes, grab it, take it, steal it, but don't kill it, no, keep it. If you keep the reader's attention, they will say, "Oh wow, this review is great!" And that's a fantastic thing. In the conclusion, you must make a recommendation. And maybe that sounds difficult, but don't worry, because I will tell you exactly what to do. Paragraphs 2 and 3 will depend on what the question asks you to do. But again, don't worry. We will talk about the types of questions and the types of things that you might need to do. And this is why you need to plan. A review can be positive, negative, or mixed. And this should be clear in your introduction. This should then be explained in paragraphs 2 and 3, and finally in paragraph 4 you should make your recommendation based on everything you have said previously. It's very important that there is a logical progression to your review, and if you don't plan, this is very difficult to do. This means that before you do anything, you should decide what you're going to review, and then if your review is going to be positive, negative, or mixed. I have seen hundreds of review questions over the years, and that is because I am a great success that's decided to teach my own language. In my experience, there are 2 types of questions. The first will ask you to describe something generally and then make a recommendation, and I will call this a general review. Brilliant name. Let's look at some examples of general review questions.
An online magazine publishes reviews written by consumers. Write a review about a phone you have bought recently. Outline its strengths and weaknesses and value for money with reasons. So here we just describe the phone in paragraph 2 and then evaluate it in paragraph 3, remembering to mention money, obviously. You see this notice in a local magazine. Have you visited a new restaurant recently? Describe the food, the atmosphere, and prices. Would you recommend the restaurant to others? Here we just describe the restaurant in paragraph 2 and then evaluate it in paragraph 3. Do not worry about recommending it to others because we do this in every review in our final paragraph anyway. You see this advert in a travel magazine. Have you stayed in a hotel recently? Where did you go? Describe the accommodation and the service. Would you recommend the hotel to others? Here we just describe the hotel and the service in paragraph 2, then evaluate it in paragraph 3. We do not need to worry about recommending it because we will do that in our final paragraph anyway.
In my opinion, the general review is the easiest review. All you need to do is introduce the item you are reviewing in paragraph 1. In paragraph 2, you should describe it. In paragraph 3, you need to evaluate it, so discuss its strengths and weaknesses. And then in the conclusion, you need to make a recommendation. This will never change. This is always the same, and that is why it's easy. The general review. The other type of question is more specific. Instead of asking you to describe something generally, it will ask you to describe and evaluate something more particular. And so I will call this the particular review. Great. Yes, all right, it's a terrible name. I know. What do you want from me? We say, those that cannot do, teach. And I'm an English teacher, so this means I cannot even speak English. So, what do you want? God. Yes, so here are some examples of particular review questions.
You see this announcement in an English-speaking magazine for students. Have you seen a film about a hero recently? What was interesting about the hero, and how did they influence the story? See, this is different. Now we are not describing something in general, but we are being more specific. We don't describe the film, we only describe the hero while answering 2 questions. What was interesting about them, and how did they influence the story? We need to give a recommendation here too, because this is still a review, remember? We will include that in our final paragraph. You see this advert on a history website. Write a review about a book you found educational. You should say what you learned from the book and how the book made it easy to learn. Again, this question does not require us to describe the book in general, but only in relation to the questions. So, we need to state what we learned from the book and how the book made it easy to learn. And of course, in our conclusion, we must make a recommendation.
Oh yeah, and students always tell me, "But Toby, I don't read books. Books are for losers." Okay, good for you. Books are for losers. So, if you are asked to review a book, what do? You invent a book. And yes, that may sound difficult. You have to invent a book and then write a review about your invented book. That's hard. So instead, take a TV series you like, take a film you like, and transform them into books. That's simple. So come on, stop complaining. The important thing to remember for a particular review question is that all the information you include must be related to the tasks. Do not include irrelevant information. You are not giving a general description of something, you are describing very particular elements of something. Make sure you do that. Yes. So, we know our structure. We know what type of question we are answering, general or particular. We know what information we need to include. We know what we are going to review, and we know what type of review we will write, positive, negative, or mixed. This means we are ready to write our introduction. Oh, brilliant. As I said before, we need to introduce what we are reviewing, and we need to grab the reader's attention. But Toby, how do we do that? Well, I'm going to give you the key, and the key is the target reader. Okay, so many teachers will say, you have to identify the target reader so you know what tone to write your review in. Okay, but this is simple. obvious and not very helpful, because every single review should be written in an informal to neutral register. So if your teacher tells you this, then slap! No, don't do that. Don't slap them. That's violent. And sometimes English B2 First preparation books will tell you this as well. So slap the book instead. Books don't have feelings. Identifying the target reader is very important because it allows you to address the target reader directly in your introduction. And this will make the target reader say, "Oh wow, this review is for me. I'm going to keep reading it." And that is the effect that we want. Now, there are two ways that we can do this. The first is to ask a question that the target reader can relate to. The second is to introduce a problem that the product that we are reviewing might solve for the target reader. And yes, I know, this might sound confusing, so let's look at some examples.
Here is a sample question. Our target readers are consumers, people who buy things, people who have money to buy things. We need to review a phone, so we can assume that the people reading the review want to buy a new phone. Some potential questions we can ask are: searching for a new phone? Are you in the market for a new mobile? Or maybe we want to introduce a problem. Deciding which phone to buy can be a difficult decision to make. As consumers, we understand how difficult it can be to choose the right phone for us. The second one here is especially good because we are including ourselves in the group. We relate to the target reader. We are friends. We are both consumers.
Yes, capitalism! We can ask a question or introduce a problem. Both are fine. The important thing is that the question or the problem relate to the product and the target reader. This is the key. After that, we should introduce the object or experience that we are reviewing, and this introduction should be personal. It should be related to our experiences with the product or the experience. This is not an essay. Remember, a review is a personal text. We are talking about our experiences and our opinions, and our review should reflect this. Let's look at some examples.
Searching for a new phone? So was I. Then I bought my new iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max and it changed my life. Are you in the market for a new mobile? Well, have you considered the new iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max? I bought it last week and I am amazed. Deciding which phone to buy can be a difficult decision to make. I ended up buying an iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max and I don't want you to make the same mistake. As consumers, we understand how difficult it can be to choose the right phone for us. Indeed, mistakes can be costly, as I experienced after buying the new iPhone 13 Extra Pro Great Max. One thing you will notice about these introductions is that 2 are introductions for a positive review and 2 are introductions for a negative review. This is important. A review is not an essay. We can reveal, and we should reveal, our opinion in the introduction. This will link our introduction and conclusion together. Notice also how these introductions encourage the reader to read more. They grab the reader's attention. How did the phone change my life? Why am I amazed? Why was it a mistake? Why was it a costly mistake?
Fantastic! Look, I cannot help you here. I'm really sorry, but the grammar and vocabulary that you need depend heavily on the type of question you get. And that's a terrible thing. One thing you can do, though, is make sure your grammar and vocabulary are related to the tasks. So, for example, if you are writing a review about a film, make sure your vocabulary is related to films. So include words like scripts, director, cast, plot, setting, special effects, stunts. You get the idea. If you want to mention who directed the film or who played the part of a certain character, then make sure you use the passive. The film was directed by Y. The protagonist was played by X. This is important because the emphasis is not on the director or the actor, but the film or the character. If you are talking about an experience and you need to describe the experience, then make sure you use narrative tenses, because obviously this experience happened in the past. This means you need to use the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. For example, I checked into the hotel at 10 a.m. I had been traveling all night and was feeling exhausted. The hotel staff were very welcoming and made me feel at home. Again, the grammar and vocabulary that you need for paragraphs 2 and 3 are very much dependent on what you are reviewing and what you need to describe. I'm sorry, I cannot do the exam for you. I wish I could, but I can't, right? But I can make things easier for you. Let's look at my example about the iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max. This will help.
Here we have used vocabulary specific to phones: user interface, camera, battery, charger, headphones, and case. We have also used some more colloquial expressions like get to grips with and ungradable adjectives like fantastic. We've used linking expressions like in fact, lastly, and all in all. Finally, we have used an inversion with a negative adverb of frequency. Notice how we have completed every task. We discussed the phone's strengths in paragraph 2, and then the weaknesses in paragraph 3, which are related to the phone's value for money. Now we just need to make a recommendation in our conclusion.
So let's get recommending. As I have said before, in the conclusion we need to make a recommendation. And most students will write something like, the iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max is a fantastic phone and I strongly recommend consumers to buy one. Or, the iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max is a terrible phone and I do not recommend consumers to buy one. And okay, these are not terrible, but I think we can do better. Instead of making a general recommendation to everyone, we should make 2 recommendations to 2 different groups of people. Think about your target reader. Can you think of a type of target reader that would like the product or like the experience? Can you think of another type of target reader that wouldn't like the product and would not like the experience? If you can, which you definitely can because nothing is perfect for everyone, then make sure you state it in your recommendation, in your conclusion. Let's look at my example.
If you already have experience with iPhones and do not feel like switching to a new brand, then the iPhone 13 Pro Extra Great Max may be for you. However, I now realize I could have purchased something similar for a much cheaper price. I therefore cannot recommend the phone to everyone.
Seriously, in my opinion, every single conclusion for a review should take one group of people and recommend them to watch that film, read that book, buy that product, or have that experience. But it should also recommend another group of people to not buy that book, watch that film, buy that product, or have that experience. Very important. Not only does it expand the grammar that you can use, but it also demonstrates to the examiner that you know your target reader. You know the types of people that are going to be reading the review. And this will make the examiner say, wow, this person's a genius. They have obviously been watching Smash English. And because I'm an amazing guy, here are 3 conclusions that I have prepared for you that you can use when you write a review in the exam. Brilliant.
For people who I absolutely recommend. On the other hand, I definitely would not suggest. If you are one of those people who X, I cannot recommend Y highly enough. That being said, if you Z, it may not be the Y for you. So who should Y? If I were a X, this Y would have been fantastic. However, considering that I am Z, this Y was not for me.
That's 3 conclusions. pre-written, pre-prepared, ready for you. Gosh, thank you so much, Toby. I think I love you. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to leave a comment. I'm going to smash that like button. Great. Thank you very much. And with that, we are finished. Now you know everything you need to know about writing the perfect review for the B2 First Cambridge exam. If you liked the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below. My name is Toby, and this was Smash English.